Hello, beautiful, and welcome back to the Vibrant Flow podcast, the podcast for the woman who wants to embrace her femininity and live a sweet life. I was just watching these YouTube videos of these people who have decided to live in rural areas and to live in a small cottage, for example, and I don't know what it is, but I just feel so drawn to these videos. And part of me, interestingly, really wants that, desires at least some aspects of that life, of a slower paced life, especially during winter, when we're actually called to honor the fact that when we're wintering, the pace of our lives is slower, and it's supposed to be slower. So if your January, your winter season, or whenever you're listening to this, isn't hectic and crazy, that's good. That's really good. And if it is hectic and crazy, how could you find ways to slow down just a little bit, to honor this season of wintering? You know, we have these seasons in our cycle, in our hormonal cycle, that we get to honor and live in a way that supports that system so that we can thrive. But we also have these larger seasons in the year when we get to honor the slowing down of the pace and mirroring what's happening in nature when trees are asleep and things aren't alive in the sense that they are during summer. But it's also a time of restoration and incubation, and this beautiful season of receiving seeds of guidance, of direction for the coming days. I love the season of, within our hormonal cycle, the season of slowing down. Honestly, the period is nowadays one of my favorites. I love my period. I love the time of slowing down and sort of having this permission slip to take extra good care of myself. Of course, we don't need a permission slip. You get to give yourself a permission slip to take extra good care of yourself whenever. But I just love that so much. And it's so funny when I've realized that the winter season and autumn season is actually, during the year, is where I feel most at home. And I also feel more at home during my luteal phase and the menstrual phase. It's not that I don't enjoy follicular phase and ovulatory phase or spring and summer in our year cycle, but there's something that I feel more at home with winter. And the older I get, the more I enjoy winter season and autumn, and I'm just so loving romanticizing it. And if you're anything like me, you've probably struggled with giving yourself permission to slow down. It may be that it's even scary. It feels like you may be missing out. It may feel like it's not something you're supposed to do because the society around you is constantly on. So it really feels like you're going against the grain, and that may feel uncomfortable, especially if your nervous system is used to being on all the time. You're used to this dysregulated state, which so many of us are used to, unfortunately, and it feels normal. And then when we're learning to be regulated and just slow down and to honor our cycle and honor where we are in our lives, it doesn't feel normal at first. So there's this resistance that may happen. But once you let go of that resistance, or you accept, okay, well, this is happening. It's normal. I'm human. I've been used to a certain way of living, a certain way of experiencing life. So, of course, I may feel a little bit of discomfort when I'm learning a new way of being, a juicier, softer, sweeter way of living. So be encouraged if you feel that it's something that you want to do, but you don't really know how, or you're still in the process of learning how to slow down and seeking wisdom as to in which areas of your life you can slow down a little bit. You have the capacity to do that. And funnily enough, when you do slow down and you give yourself the permission to do that, the world still keeps on running. Nothing bad happens. And then you start to realize and you start to see the evidence that it's actually not dangerous to slow down. So these are just some of the musings that I've had watching these videos of people who work in tiny bookshops in rural areas and live in cottages and have this slower pace in life. And I think it's just so beautiful. I'm not sure if I could, have an exact the exact same life, or if I could move to a rural area. There's a part of me that wants that, and part of me really enjoys the city and the ambitious side in me. But it's fun to honor both sides and to cultivate both sides as well. But now we will go on to the topic of today, which is the perfume of a feminine woman. So I'm not talking about like a actual perfume that you spray on your body. I'm more so talking about the air and presence and the experiential feeling of a woman. Like, think about someone who walks into the room and there's just this je ne sais quoi. There's just this presence about her, this aura of femininity, of groundedness, of peace and confidence that you feel drawn to. And sometimes this may be even triggering if you are still in the process of embracing these things that you desire in yourself. When we're in that process, we may feel feelings of jealousy, of insecurity. And they're just, signals of, okay, well, I'm still developing this in myself. I should say, a part of you is still not convinced that you are worthy of being this woman that you want to be, that you desire to be. I've noticed that with myself so many times when I think about women that I admire, that I want to be more like. And whenever I felt that sting of insecurity or jealousy, it points to some part of me that believes still that I am not worthy of embodying a woman like that. And understanding that can be so liberating, because when you deconstruct the belief that was not based on truth anyway, you start to build evidence of the fact that you are worthy of being her. So when I think of a woman with a feminine perfume, of a perfume of goodness, of grace, of godliness, of wisdom, of this aura of elegance and beauty, I think of a woman who looks for the good in others, who is there to see the potential in others, but also is so grounded in her identity as a child of God that she absolutely knows that she's worthy. She knows that whenever she's experiencing limiting beliefs, that those are just thoughts about herself, and those thoughts can be changed. So she's always able to access that feminine power, that autonomy, that sense of empowerment, that I am never a victim of my circumstances. I am never a victim of my thoughts, of my patterns that I may have been blind to before. And this woman with this perfume, this presence about her, is always looking for wisdom and discernment and asks for it in prayer and knows that she's worthy of having that clarity. She knows that her past, the thoughts in her past of being not smart or not the right size or not beautiful enough or that there's something wrong with her were just thoughts. They were an illusion that she previously subscribed to and believed, but no longer does, and the evidence of her current beliefs are evident in her life all around. And when I think about the word perfume or fragrance, I'm reminded of a scripture of Song of Songs 4:16, so chapter 4, verse 16, where this young woman, this virgin, is talking to her fiance, and she says, "Awake, north wind, rise up, south wind, blow on my garden and spread its fragrance all around. Let my beloved come into his garden and taste its finest fruits." There is a lot of sensuality, like sensual awareness in these passages in Song of Songs. And if you're familiar with that book, you know how explicit it can be and can get. And it's quite, at times, erotic, but it also has this spiritual layer to it, this metaphoric layer to it that speaks of us, of you and God, and this loving relationship that God wants to have with you. And but with this specific verse, I am just thinking of this image of the wind blowing and spreading this fragrance all around, and you and your life having this garden and being this garden being the metaphor of your life and the fruits that you are cultivating in this garden, and how the fragrance is just spread around and it has this beautiful effect on others. And you know, in particular here, of course, with the spouse and coming together in union, in matrimony, specifically, but also like in general terms of being this woman who is intentionally cultivating a garden of finest fruits. So how can you develop this garden and be intentional about it? This is something that we get to do. And again, I always say that, and I hope that you're not bored with me saying that, but it's so important that you get the fact that you are free, you are liberated, you have the gift. You have been gifted with the ability to choose how you cultivate your garden. You are never a victim unless you choose to be. Okay. So think about this woman with this beautiful fragrance and this perfume that encapsulates beauty and discernment and groundedness and encouragement and this empathy and loving embrace. She's a woman who doesn't emanate distrust and strife or discontentment or blame or victimhood, this mentality of being a victim, especially with men, but also with women. I see it time and time again how women can be so catty and so mean to each other, and it's only because we're not we're not rooted in our own feminine power. We're actually completely disconnected from our femininity. And then, especially at workplace, I see this all the time, or hear about it all the time, because my husband currently, his work team is mainly comprised of women. And some of these women are clearly completely embodying resentment. And that is showing up how they treat each other, how they treat my husband, as a colleague. And it's not pretty. It is sad. It's so sad, and it doesn't have to be like that. So a woman with this feminine perfume is the opposite of one who emanates distrust and this air of strife, this air of, hey, come into my life and you'll have plenty of strife. You'll have plenty of conflict and plenty of drama. That's not who we want to be, right? So instead, this woman allows men to be in their masculine. She gives others permission to love themselves, and she is a woman who lifts people up. But sometimes if someone is so deep in their victimhood, it will only be triggering, and that's okay. There's nothing we can do about it. I've been there. I have been the one being triggered. So I understand the process, and I want to remind you that you are never the one who should change someone. If someone decides and chooses to stay in their victim mentality and you try to help them, but they just choose to stay there because they're not ready to see yet how they can shift, it's not your responsibility to fix them or change their lives or save them. Okay? So imagine this woman with a scent of resentment. Is that magnetic? No, it's repelling. It is deeply repelling, right? And it makes you feel icky. Sometimes it makes you feel icky about yourself, which is not a very nice effect to have on others, right? But it is this aura that turns heads and attracts attention in a beautiful way. And it's also about being a vessel in strategic places and times. Think about Queen Esther. I think she's the one that we also usually refer to when we think about this queenly aura, this queenly perfume. And she embodied obedience. She was really attuned to what she was asked to do, what Spirit asked her to do, and she had to embody courage in a way that many of us will probably never experience something similar, as to go to the king, even though it's not legal, or there may be repercussions of losing your life if you do it without an invitation and permission, and to ask for mercy on your people because of this law that is being hatched, that is being created to destroy a whole people. And so when we think about Esther, she really went through this purification and beautification process. And I've created episodes on this. I think at least one is on the public podcast, and there's another one on Patreon, specifically about these processes of purification and beautification. And in the process of being purified and beautified, we absolutely need to let go of these resentments and unforgiveness and these thoughts that I am not worthy. I am not worthy of stepping into who I'm created to be. I'm not worthy of being a mother. I'm not worthy of being a wife. I'm not worthy of living a pain-free life. I'm not worthy of being healthy. I'm not worthy of having these incredible men pursue me, or having this gorgeous, beautiful union with a man, or I'm not worthy of having a beautiful professional life, having a job that I love, that supports me and my family and allows me to develop my skills. It could be any one of these things or something else, or all of them, right? But all of these thoughts of you, these beliefs about you, need to be purified so that you can step into your true beauty, which is so much more than your physical external appearance, which is important as well. There is a lot of importance placed on this, and we see it also in the story of Esther. She was literally, for the duration of a year, being beautified with these oils and these beauty treatments and everything. So there's a place for that, but there is the metaphoric significance of that is much deeper. It permeates every area of your life: the physical, the spiritual, the mental, and the emotional, right? And this woman that I know you want to become, and you are becoming, has the courage to get noticed, to act when God asks you to act. And she also has a teachable heart. So there's no pride in terms of, like, I'm talking about pride in the sense of not being teachable, not being humble to receive guidance, to receive correction, but having this soft, permeable heart. I think personally for me, this is really important too, that I feel like is really important for me. I've always been very strongly opinionated, and I grew up with a dad with very strong opinions, and my personality is much closer to my dad's than my mom's. And so whilst there is value in that, in the strength that comes with that, I also have had to learn the power of softening, of being receptive. And this is also being receptive of correction, right? That I have the humility to say that, yeah, I was wrong, or I had these prejudices about X, Y, or Z, or these people, or whatever it might be, right? So this fragrance of this feminine woman, it's if you think about like a actual perfume and the essential oil fragrance that we're going to create together in just a bit, it has these layers. It has the top notes, it has the middle notes, and it has the base notes. And all of these serve a purpose, right? And put together, they create the most powerful combination. And because the top notes are usually the ones that evaporate the fastest, but they have these certain, they smell, for example, they can be energizing or invigorating. And then the middle notes they serve a purpose. They're balancing, they're relaxing, they balance your hormones in terms of like the essential oils, not the actual perfume, like the toxic perfumes that we unfortunately have in our drugstores and yeah, I love perfumes. Don't get me wrong. I've always loved perfumes, but I've also been very sensitive, and sometimes I get these incredible headaches from certain perfumes. And now that I know that, okay, they're endocrine system disruptors and they're toxic to our systems, unfortunately, I know it's so sad. I know. But I've been trying to find ways to bring in these beautiful scents into my life in a more healthy way. And if you use like a regular perfume, use it on your hair rather than directly on your skin. I know it doesn't delete or take away the toxic effect completely, but it's still better than spraying it onto your skin. And I know like the instructions with perfume is like you put it on certain places in your body, on your skin. But yeah, well, anyway, when you think about the middle notes and the base notes, and the base notes, for example, they're grounding, they're calming, they linger on the longest. So what are the top notes of your life? What are the middle notes of your presence? And the base notes of your femininity? I think it's so fun to think about these things, and you can actually write down, make it an exercise, write down top notes, middle notes, and base notes, and think about what kind of a woman you want to be. And then think about it in terms of these notes. For example, your eau de toilette can be consisting of a middle note of a woman willing to be open, to be led and held, to be an active participant in her life, with top notes of gentleness and softness and intuition, and these base notes of deep security, groundedness, trust, and also boundaries, fierce boundaries. So, as I'm sure that you are ready to let go of the undertones and top notes of codependency and insecurity, anxiousness, or jealousy, start creating on purpose the perfume that you have. Instead of focusing on these things, okay, I don't want these things. And it's good to be clear. I don't want to have this perfume of jealousy and insecurity and codependency. Rather, I want to have these top notes and base notes and middle notes, and write these down and look at them every day. Start to reprogram your mind, your system, so that you can embody this woman. So let's talk about how to create an essential oil, fragrance, or perfume that is healthier than the basic perfumes that we have in our stores, just because, like I mentioned, they're endocrine system disruptors, they're toxic, unfortunately. I mean, I love a woman who smells really good and a man who smells really good. It's really, really nice. But unfortunately, we know that these are toxic, so I am trying to limit using them and trying to replace them with something more, healthy. And by the way, I'm not judging you using perfumes like the regular ones. I sometimes still do myself. But just, I'm giving you the information so that you can make an empowered decision as to what you want to use. So what you need for your beautifying essential oil perfume is a pipette or a dropper bottle of about 50 milliliters. Not sure what you use in terms of like measurements, but 50 milliliters. So it's like a smallish bottle of a pipette with a pipette, like so that you can use the dropper, right? And then about 40 milliliters of, for example, almond or grapeseed oil or jojoba oil as the carrier oil or base oil. So what I use is jojoba oil. I think it's really nice and it doesn't really have a scent on its own. And it's really nourishing. So it's really great. And then what you need is at least one of each of the three categories. So at least one or two, like it's one or two of each. One or two of the top notes, of the middle notes, and the base notes for this most potent and balancing, powerful, energizing, or whatever effect you're looking for combination. And so you put 3 to 6 drops of each essential oil into the carrier oil. And when you put all of the oils in, you just turn the bottle up and down. You don't need to shake it so that you get it all mixed up, right? Okay, so like I said, the top notes are usually energizing, invigorating, uplifting, and the aroma also evaporates the quickest. And the top notes, for example, include peppermint oil. I love that. It's so refreshing. Sometimes I just sniff peppermint oil and when I need to focus on something. Sweet orange oil. What do we have? Basil oil, cinnamon oil, eucalyptus oil, thyme oil, spearmint oil, and what is that? Clary sage oil. Not sure if I am pronouncing that right. And then we have the middle note, essential oils, and these are balancing, they're relaxing, they have, at least some of them have, this beautiful effect on your hormonal balance, and they can be relaxing to your muscles. And these include chamomile oil, rosemary oil, lavender oil, one of my favorites for relaxation, geranium oil, pine oil, black pepper oil, cardamom oil, and nutmeg oil. Then we have the base note essential oils, so the third category, and these are usually grounding and calming. They can also be aphrodisiac, and they linger on the longest, and usually they're also the most expensive because of this. And these include, for example, sandalwood oil, frankincense oil, vanilla oil, ginger oil, ylang-ylang oil. Honestly, how do you pronounce that? Y-L-A-N-G. Ylang-ylang. Anyway, then we have clove oil, rose oil, and neroli oil. I'm not even sure what that is. Have never used it before. So when you're deciding, okay, well, what essential oils am I going to combine and mix together, you just go and try them out in your natural products store, whatever you have around, and see what you're just drawn to, what you like, and try them out. It's just simply about trying them out and combining them together, and you can always like add something more, or next time a little bit less of this, and when you try them out, like take, for example, you take one of top notes and then one of the base notes and sniff them after one another and see what kind of an effect they have together. And if your nose is not taking in anything anymore, you just sniff, coffee beans in between to neutralize the effect. And yeah, this is just I think it's a beautiful, like, self-love, feminine embodiment, nourishing thing that you can do, that you can gift yourself if you are able to do that and to get these essential oils, or at least, earmark it and see when you're able to do this and try it out. 'Cause it's really cool, because these essential oils, they really can help you with focus, with relaxation, with being more grounded, and to balance your moods and your feelings. So take this as a way to nourish yourself, and it can be a beautiful, concrete way to contribute to your beautifying routine. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and please let me know what you thought, and if you are excited to create your own essential oil mix, as well as that description of the woman you are becoming. What are your top notes and your middle notes and your base notes? I would love to know. If you want to send me a message on Instagram and tell me, like, these are my top notes and my middle notes and my base notes, I would love to know. It would be so fun to know that. But meanwhile, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for subscribing and leaving a rating and a review. It helps me so much. And check out my Patreon if you're interested in joining and supporting this podcast. And also, if you want to work one-on-one with me in the Vibrant Woman program for 4 months, that would be such a joy to be guiding you in this journey of becoming the most vibrant you. And yeah, that's it. I hope you have a beautiful week and a beautiful day, and until next time, stay in the vibrant flow.
Cover me in wine-colored petals, strip up my hard edges, for less I won't settle. I want every inch of my perfect skin. Now I'm all about that, don't you sweetness.